Hello everyone, my name is Giovanni with Haverford Township Free Library, and today I'm going to be bringing us some magical menagerie deck packs on our Mythical Monday today. So what I'm talking about is, for Mythical Monday, I've decided to choose a theme that kind of relates to our mythology question for the day. So I'm actually going to be talking to us about some Greek mythology today using Magic the Gathering, one of my favorite card games. So how I'm going to be doing that is I'm going to be kind of choosing a theme to go with the Greek mythology. So I kind of overall went with more of the gods and how people related or praised the gods during their lifetime as a religion. So that's what we're going to get into. We're going to go over to Untap right here because this is the deck right here. We're going to do a commander style deck because I can fit a lot more cards into this than a regular deck. So our commander here is going to be Golos, Tireless Pilgrim. Not too much to do with mythology overall, but just for the type of deck we're playing, five-color god stuff, you kind of want a good commander that can easily get out cards faster. And he's also better Solemnicum, where he just basically gets you a tap land, and instead of drawing a card, he can pay to get three things for free. So he's a good choice for our guys here. But other than that, I tried keeping to the theme of mythology as best as possible here. So we're going to go through the main point that we're talking about today is our gods here. The gods were a very big thing with Greek mythology. People used to make altars. They would make entire buildings for them to worship and devote their time to because they believed that these were the deciding factors in their lives. If you didn't listen to the gods or if you angered the gods, you were most likely going to have something bad befallen on you. But if you were a good, devoted person and you went and you made offerings or sacrifices to your gods, depending on what they were for, because some gods could be for just agriculture, for your lands, where other gods could be more for the weather entirely. But we'll take a quick look through just to show off some of the main gods that I wanted to point out, because those are the ones we're going to recognize first. You have Heliod, sun crowned. He is just Heliod, or Helios, the sun god, who is a born of Titan Kronos, I believe. You can kind of tell because, well, he's obviously the sun god, but he also, I think he has a chariot as well. Or at least I know that Helios, the actual Greek god, has a sun chariot. That's usually his noted thing to recognize. We also have one such as, where is, you have Thassa. So Thassa is kind of Poseidon, but I actually think she's more Aphrodite, who was the wife of Poseidon. She's also a goddess of the sea, so that's most likely who this is supposed to be based on. We have Nylia, who she's kind of, oops, we have Nylia, who's kind of a mixture of a few different goddesses, but I think overall she's just more or less Artemis because she's the goddess of the hunt. You have Perforos, who is the god, who is Hephaestus, god of the forge. Literally, they're both god of the forge. And Hephaestus was actually married to Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, one of the most beautiful goddesses out there. And last but not least, we have Erebos, who is just obviously, oops, Hades, because he's the god of the underworld. He's kind of depicted as a cruel god, which Hades can be at times, but I've always liked Hades the best out of these gods myself. But those are kind of the more well-known ones that you can kind of take out of here. From here, you also have things like Eros, who is probably Ares, I would say, for this. Ephra, who I don't remember her name at the top of my head, but there's a goddess of well-being and knowledge. I believe that this one might be. So if you guys want, you can actually have a very fun time going through looking at the art and trying to depict on which god is actually what. But so what did people do with the gods? Like I said, people were very keen on making sure that the gods were happy because if the gods were happy, you probably had a very bountiful harvest, or your livestock did well, or overall you just had a nice year. So usually what they would do is, if I can find it here in my artifacts, is that they would make places of devotion that they would go to where they would just make, like they would build statues of their goddess, they or goddesses. They would make depictions out of stone of animals that represented them, like owls, swans. A lot of birds were very well used for gods and goddesses. They each had their own, though. So if you were to ever offer up one of those animals, you would have to make sure it was to the right god, and you had to make sure that it was the same gender as that god, too, or was considered an insult to them. I'm trying to find it here where we have it. I always forget. Here we go. Here it is. Altar of the Pantheon. This is basically a good depiction of what they would do. They would make an entire building for a god, depending on how big they were. If you were a small time god, a bit less than, you might get a shrine to yourself. And last thing I wanted to mention for Greek mythology before we get into the deck itself is a lot of the time what you would be sacrificing, like I said, is animals or fruit, or well, you would be offering fruit, but a lot of the time is you would be offering up animals. That's why I included Nyx Fleece Ram here, because it's one of my favorite cards, period. But this is basically what you would do is you would just kind of offer these up to the gods after a good harvest, or a way of saying thank you, or just keeping them happy, basically. And then you also have creatures from mythology such as nymphs and dryads, were basically creatures of the forest who would help keep things clean and prosperous. But if you weren't doing good, like if you weren't trying to keep the land clean, they would play tricks on you, if I remember that correctly. And then you also have a satyr druid here as well, because satyrs are very well known through Greek mythology. Half human, half goat at the bottom of it. If I remember, all I remember for them is from Percy Jackson because of Grover. Percy Jackson is one of my favorite series with Greek mythology. Um, but that's a quick little show of just the mythology side of the deck. I just want to go into how it works overall, because so the way these work with the gods here is you have something called devotion, where you need to reach a certain amount of colors to that devotion so that they're considered a creature, so they're able to attack and swing. So the best way of doing that is getting double devotion creatures down. So a lot of these guys are gods, but we'll run through the deck really fast for creatures. We're running a Nyx Fleece Ram because of life gain. We're running Engorthian Enchantress because it protects itself when you can draw a card whenever you play an enchantment, and all of our gods are enchantments. We have Herald of the Pantheon, makes things cheaper and gains life. Dryad of the Ilias Grove makes getting color correction for our lands easier. Mesa Enchantress, we just draw cards like the other Enchantress. Satyr Enchanter, we draw cards. We just want to keep drawing cards. We have Thus, a God of the Sea, helps us get through our deck and helps us get some damage in. Heliod, Suncrown, gains us some life and helps bomb some creatures. Atheros, God of Passage, makes it so your opponent makes a choice if your creature stays or not. Farrakha. Farrakha is more of a devotion creature overall. I don't think she has too much to play on this, but she's also good just for getting rid of creature cards from opponent's graveyard and just getting them a little snake creature. We're also running Clothis, just good because damage or a little bit of mana. Mogus because damage. Ephra, card draw. Eros, God of Victory. Eidolon of Blossoms. Thassa, Deep Dwelling. Running Heliod, God of the Sun. Perforos, God of the Forge. Nylea Kenai, Nylea, God of the Hunt. Erebos, Bleak-Hearted. Erebos, God of the Dead. We're running an Academy Reactor because when they go, it's a very good way of getting an enchantment card and getting it into play very easy. Plus, she's a good blocker. Seaborn Muse because it untaps everything, which is just nice. Another Perforos because this one gives haste to our creatures. Xenagos because Xenagos. Keranos, again, just because like Xenagos, Keranos does really good things just for having it out. Karametra, Phoenix, and Krufix. Again, these five right here, these gods are just ones that you just want to get out because they're meant to just help you with the board. And then if they become creatures, they're really good to pair up with, where is Phoenix right here? Phoenix, these guys all have 7 or 5, so it's just very good mill. And then we're running another Atheros, just because this one's probably the better Atheros in my opinion for creatures. And then we're just running Abbott's and Angel of Hope because it's a big drop, but it also is just something we really would like for everything to have, indestructible. So that's our creatures. We're gonna, oops, it should be right here. For our instants and sorceries, we're running an Enlightened Tutor and a Demonic Tutor to get cards easier. Psychonic Rift, just because that's a decent board wipe. We're running Replenish to get all of our enchantments back. Sky Shroud Claim to help ramp out a little bit faster by turn 4, or turn 2 or 3 if you can manage it with Soul Ring. Ingrook's Wake, because you should always run. I think this is the only board wipe we're running, so I'm kind of like about it, but I don't think the gods having indestructible, if you can get them reach and stuff like that, you can do pretty well. We're also running a good amount of Planeswalkers because we want that devotion. So we're running Calyx because he's really good for enchantments. Xenagos the Reveler because of mana. Johnny because it's helpful with mana or devotion, and also you gain 100 life if you can manage it. Tameo, I would suggest switching this for the green blue Tameo because you can't sacrifice permanents that way, which is the only thing that would get rid of your gods besides exiling them. You have Elspeth, Sun's Champion, because you should be running Elspeth if you're running a Theros based deck, like a Greek god deck. She's the champion of champions. We're running 2 Grooks, Caller Beast, and Apex Predator because this is just good to get some things in our hand and also just kind of destroy things altogether. Nico Bolas, because that's some good devotion if you can manage the colors early, and also he's just really good board control. Now, as for our enchantments, we're running a Prismatic Omen just because this helps us get our lands down but easier. Enchantment Presence, more card draw. Defense of the Heart. During your upkeep, if one of your opponents controls 3 or more creatures, sacrifice it. Insert your library for 2 creature cards, put those into play, and shuffle your library. I didn't check if this one was commander legal, but I like it too much to get rid of it, so it's a good card to run in there, especially for a 4-drop enchantment. Uh, we're running Leyline of Anticipation and Sanctity because you just want protection and flash like that. It's good things to have in commander. We actually you probably could well, no, it's the devotion. That's why you're running this instead of running like the artifact that gives you flash. Vidalcan Ori, that's what I'm thinking of. Mirai's Wake because this is just good for our lands and our creatures. Sigil Empty Throne because we play an enchantment creature. Privileged Position. This is just really helpful for us. And Maelstrom Necklace, I like this a lot because all colors of devotion, and then you get Cascade off of it, which just helps get the deck out so much faster. And then Omniscience because it's a lot of blue devotion, and this is more of a card I love to play because of the art itself. Like looking at it, I always like it. Like I just go into it. But that's enough of our enchantments. Let's go through the artifacts real fast. We're running Sensei's Divining Top because if you get Soul Ring and Sensei's Divining Top turn 1, you are setting yourself up for a win very, very fast there. You have Fist of Suns, which just lets you pay all 5 colors rather than paying for the spell's mana cost, which is amazing. Chromatic Lantern, which lets your lands tap for anything, and you can add a mana of any color. Alter the Pantheons, like I said, for that devotion and getting a color. Bow of Nylea, because this is probably one of the better artifact enchantments to be running out of Theros. Next Lotus for devotion ramp, which you might work sometimes. I feel like this one might be a bit hard to get online, but we'll see. Whip of Erebos, because this is probably the first, the top artifact I would say that came out of Theros like that. Because this one, Bow of Nylea is probably just a bit behind it, but this one I think is better for our creatures, especially if we lose the gods, we just get them back. And if we have devotion, they gain haste. Prismatic Geoscope, because it should work because a lot of the lands that we're running have basic types like island and swamp and such. And then Achroma's Memorial because it's just something that you should have in a deck like this. Because if you get your guys online late game and you have this, they can just swing super, super hard. And that kind of does it for the deck itself. We'll go through the lands really fast just to give you guys a show. We have all types of this, how you're just tapping and stacking it for either a mountain or something. Badlands, Swamp Mountain, Bayou, like I said, just a bunch of each type of basic land. We're also running Cavern of Souls, Commander Tower, da, 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 da. Trying to see if there's anything else that's just not. We're running Nykthos, which I'm kind of iffy about again. If it worked, it worked, but sometimes I feel like you'll have a hard time getting it on. We're running, see if there's anything else different. Oh, Tundra, Underground Sea, Verdant Catacombs, Water Grave. Yeah, pretty much just a bunch of basic. I think, yeah, there's this also. Sarah's Sanctum, if I can get it up. This one just gives you uh, white for each enchantment you control, which late game is pretty good, because then I can just pay for everything, including the one color you have to pay. But, so that's kind of how the deck works. I haven't tested it so far. This is more of a one I was going to be doing over the weekend, just to see how much I liked it, but I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it should work as long as it's not a bad hand you're starting out with, and I think you could maybe cut a few things out of here if you really wanted to. Like maybe you don't need Nyx Fleeks if you really wanted to. Maybe you can get rid of one of the draw cards, especially maybe the Princess Enchantment one. Because if you have Mesa, that's double white instead of just one green for devotion. But I'll let you guys let me know what you guys would think would be good inside a deck like this, because my problem is always trying to get the colors online, trying to get the devotion up there. That's why I think getting like tutor cards is probably something you would want in a deck like this, so you can get key pieces for the devotion to work better. But that's everything we have for today. I'm not sure what we'll be doing next week, but I believe it is going to be Egyptian mythology, so most likely we'll be going over a little bit of the pyramids, a little bit of the sphinxes. But let me know what you guys think. If you want, you can leave us a message here on our website and you can find us on any of our social media accounts like Facebook or Instagram at Haverford Township Free Library. I've been Giovanni and hope that you guys have a nice rest of your day. Bye bye now.